I feel the need to record everything. It's probably the reason I'm in film. I have a bad memory, so I need to take down everything I experience. I write one page in a notebook every day to practice my writing or journal out whatever crisis I've decided on that day. I have a daily journal in which I just record the events of the day in a relatively objective manner. I take 1 second of video each day that is edited together by an app on my phone, so by the end of a year, I have a 6-minute video encompassing that year. I also do a 20-minute video journal to myself at the end of each month. I've never shown these videos to anyone before. I've written a 12-page summary of my life until the end of high school, and another list of the best things in my life from my 18th birthday. All of these methods of recording, in combination with all the random photos we take and things we write down and texts that we send, means that there is a fairly comprehensive record of who I am in the world. Because sometimes we need to prove to ourselves or to other people that we exist. Maybe that's why we take pictures. As evidence to assert that we did this thing and we were in this place. But when I stepped off a plane at midnight, looking out towards a red sky and a beautiful Icelandic landscape, all I wanted was for no one to ever know I was there. Oh, I didn't mention, I have also written my will. The idea of spending 10 days traveling across Iceland, doing nothing but taking videos and receiving a credit for it sounds ideal. Who could find that stressful? Well, unfortunately, I am that guy, and I knew it well before stepping off the plane. I knew that I would be unhappy in Iceland because I'm not usually happy anywhere. Which sounds depressing and self-pitying, but I really don't see it that way. I'm not especially happy, but who is? I'm still a pretty comfortable and content person. It just messes me up when I'm handed an amazing opportunity and I manage to still think I'm going through a crisis. I think the only step toward true happiness is accepting the fact that true happiness is a myth. Happiness is saying, yep, I'm gonna be fucking miserable. Let's do it. That's how I ended up in Iceland. I had to accept that it wasn't going to make me happy, which is hard, mostly because of other people. It's difficult for others to understand that it's okay to be disappointed or not excited. Having to tell each family member and friend that I was going and hearing, wow, I wish I had your life and you must be so excited, made me feel really guilty because I knew I was going to be a mess producing a film while I was there. And because once you arrive in those amazing places, when you actually see them, you realize that it's just a place and that's it. Incredible views are great, and maybe you'll be hit with awe and wonder and have a sublime moment, but for the most part, I don't really think those happen. It's just something you're seeing. You're still you, and the landscape isn't going to chip away at the thing that's weighing you down. Taking pictures of those things felt even more insignificant to me. After all, hundreds of people beside you are taking the same photo, so why does it even matter? It feels pointless to take one as well, and ridiculous to point your camera anywhere else. I began to wonder why we even take these photos, if they've already been captured by countless others and can be easily brought up on Google. Is it because we don't know what to do with ourselves when we come across a view so huge, so we go to share it with our friends back home, without allowing it to first resonate with ourselves? To me, going to take a picture while traveling has a sense of loneliness. It feels small, especially when there's no way you can possibly capture the vastness of the subject. After being in Iceland for a while, it feels like you hit a threshold of beautiful sights and you can't be surprised anymore because the beauty surrounds you. I was sitting on a bus passing ancient mountains, looking at books and at my computer, doing anything to pass the time that wasn't staring at the mountains that reminded me I had a film due in a couple days. What I did take interest in was the people and their responses to Iceland. It's so difficult to actually get an interesting and unique take on the view in a place that's visited by 1 million tourists a year. That may be what drew Melissa, one of the other students on the trip, to try more dangerous methods of getting footage. Throughout the trip, she would climb over barriers and fences and hang over the edge of cliffs hundreds of feet high. I wondered what it was that drove her to practically risk her life to get a great shot. As the trip went on, it occurred to me that she was probably getting some of the best photos on the trip by creeping onto the edge. And I realized that there's a feeling that so many young artists have, that in order to find success in an increasingly competitive industry, you must do something crazy and dangerous and fearless to stand out and to feel like you have any hope. She was literally risking her life to get a great shot, because if you aren't able to get that shot, it pretty much feels like risking your life anyway. As my trip was approaching an end, and my family and friends texted more and more questions about my travels, I felt deeply uninspiring because I didn't have much to say other than, yeah, I went there and it was pretty. That's what I figured my review would be before I had even left Toronto. However, I thought back and realized that I'd had an experience that affected me. It was on the second day, and it hadn't stood out to me much at the time. We'd bussed around all day looking at various sites, and I was growing tired of it all. You can only be dazzled for so long, and the appeal of sightseeing was starting to waver. But then we came to an empty field, a type of sand dune, and walked for a few minutes. We were at the coast, a gigantic rock formation bordered by water. The wind was intense, the sky was gray, and the mountains in the distance were larger than anything I could have imagined. I didn't think there was this much space in the world. I stepped out on the edge of a cliff and sat down. I hadn't thought that a view could hit me like this, but there I was, in that moment of sublime realization that I had written off earlier. Something happened to me in this moment that I hadn't expected to happen in Iceland. I was surprised. And oddly enough, after all the cynicism I'd felt the entire trip, I took a picture. I guess I felt like I didn't deserve to be in Iceland because I wasn't happy about it. Once again, I had been handed a golden opportunity, and I knew I'd find a way to make it a hardship. However, eventually it occurred to me that it didn't need to be a life-changing trip. The pressure to have a blast and make a great film would still be there, but in the end, you're just hanging out there. I didn't need to wait for my artistic being to reach a breakthrough. I could simply be there and walk around, and eat thousand-year-old ice, and drink great beer illegally, and climb waterfalls, and visit a penis museum, and watch YouTube, and fall in love with a dreamy tour guide, and skip stones. And I realized that I wanted to remember those things in the only way I know how. Of course, I didn't realize this until the plane ride back to Toronto. Once I arrived home, I took up my camera and looked over my footage. And I hated every second of it.